Well, let's talk about all of this with Stephen Kinnock. He's Labour MP. He's a member of the Brexit Select Committee and a keen Remain campaigner. Good morning to you, Stephen.
Hello, good morning.
Well, I mean, it's an awful lot to round up. None of that news is good news for the Conservative Party, which, and certainly not good news for Theresa May, which makes me wonder, why on earth would the Labour leader, your Labour leader, Jeremy Corbyn, want to try and get her out of such a sticky wicket by helping her out with a Brexit deal?
I think it's clear that for the last couple of years we've been in a political and constitutional crisis. When we're in a crisis, we have to put our country before our party. And the only way that we're going to get through this without having to have another divisive referendum with no clarity about what the outcome of that would be is to get a deal over the line. And the way to do that, I think, is for both Jeremy Corbyn and Theresa May to come together and find a compromise which enables us to leave the European Union, but to do so in a way that protects jobs and livelihoods. And that's really the content of the letter that we set. That's what we set out in our letter, and we're hoping that we will be able to make some progress this week in the talks so that Parliament can vote a deal over the line.
Well, this is a letter sent by you and other MPs, backbench MPs, and you're basically, it's a letter to those who are carrying out those negotiations: Jeremy Corbyn, Rebecca Long-Bailey, the Shadow Business Secretary, Keir Starmer, the Shadow Brexit Secretary, and John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor, and basically saying, look, we'd like you to do a deal. You've been certainly an advocate of a Norway-style Brexit, you say, but it's an open letter basically saying secure a deal, protects jobs, workers' rights and environmental and consumer standards, and you don't actually have to insert this second referendum, because there's been a lot of talk that certainly the likes of Sir Keir Starmer, who's very keen on a second referendum, that any deal would have to be subject to a confirmatory vote. So we've got a different bit of terminology there, from the second referendum, the people's vote, to the confirmatory vote. But you're saying, look, this isn't necessary. That is going to be a massive sticking point for Theresa May. Therefore, don't hold on to that. Just get a deal.
Exactly. That, at the heart of our letter, what we're saying is it's already a tough situation that we're in to get a deal, get a compromise, meet in the middle. That's difficult for Theresa May and Jeremy Corbyn to do as it is. If we try to insert a second referendum into the process, so to make a deal that Parliament would vote on conditional on having a referendum on that deal, there is no way in a million years that Theresa May, or in my view any other Conservative Prime Minister, would whip their MPs to support something which has that conditionality in it, and therefore you're torpedoing the chances of having a deal by insisting on having a second referendum in the mix. And I hope that, therefore, that we don't insist on that. We have a vote which is just on the deal that they do. Now, of course, colleagues who are campaigning for a second referendum will have a chance to put down an amendment to the Withdrawal Agreement Implementation Bill, which is the legislation that would be required to put the withdrawal agreement in place if a deal is voted through. And of course, if they want to put down a second referendum amendment to that piece of legislation, they're very welcome to do so. There'll be plenty of opportunity to do that. But what we're saying now is, don't put the cart before the horse. Get the deal over the line, and then Parliament can have a debate and a vote, if it wants to, on having a second referendum.
Although, again, there's lots of, I understand, pressure from Tory MPs as well for the Prime Minister to do this MV4, meaningful vote for, on her withdrawal agreement. She's lost 3 times. The majority against her is falling, but it doesn't look like now she's upset so many more Tory backbenchers by talking with the Labour Party that this is going to happen. But what do you make of what John Watson, the Deputy Leader of the Labour Party, has said? He called yesterday for Jeremy Corbyn to stop being mealy-mouthed on Brexit and to openly back a second referendum. Many who are fans of a second referendum are saying that it is actually that is what is going to get Labour votes at the local election and in the European elections, or indeed if there were a general election, that actually saying, look, we're for Remain or we want a second referendum, that is how to win votes. Many others in your party saying that might win votes in Islington, it's not going to win votes in the northwest or in the north of the country.
Yeah, I think the fundamental problem that people campaigning for a second referendum have is there's a number of questions they haven't answered. One is the question of the question. In a recent poll, I think 25% indicated that they'd like to leave the EU without a deal. The people campaigning for a second referendum are saying the choice should be between a deal and remaining in the EU. But if you've got 25% of the electorate that want to leave without a deal, you can't, in my view, have a referendum that doesn't offer that option. It wouldn't have any democratic legitimacy. There's no answer to that question. There's no answer to the question, well, okay, are we sure that it would, we know it would be divisive, but would it be decisive? It seems to me that a narrow victory for Remain, you'd have Mr Farage and all the others saying let's have best out of three. It's also not clear to me how we could send our team in to negotiate for a deal. Let's say we get the deal, then we have a referendum. Would we then be campaigning against the deal that we've just negotiated for? So whilst, I think colleagues are, campaigning passionately for a second referendum, what we try and do is set out in the letter in a rational, if you like, analytical way. Okay, you want to have this referendum, but can you please answer the following questions? Because the story of Brexit over the last 3 years is about politicians promising the earth, the stars and the sun, and then not actually being able to deliver it.
Well,
so
the politicians promised to allow us to leave the EU, which is a perfectly feasible and easy thing to do as long as Remain supporting MPs in the House of Commons don't block it. It's nothing that's not promising the stars. It's just called democracy. Last time I heard Stephen Kinnock. Just one final question I must put to you, though. There's expecting confirmation in the next 24 hours or so that Donald Trump is going to be here in June to mark the D-Day commemorations on June the 6th for a state visit. Should he be allowed to address both houses of Parliament? That was a big sigh.
That because I think he, some of the things that Trump has said and done, I don't think that they make a contribution to the kind of world that we want to live in, where countries
is that relevant?
Should
the leader or biggest economic, political and military ally be given the honour of addressing both houses of Parliament, as pretty much all previous presidents in modern days have?
Well, they haven't really, have they? I mean, Barack Obama did, but it isn't something that is automatically given to people. I mean, you've had some of the great heroes of our time, such as Mandela. But I think I have to be completely frank with you, Julia. I haven't entirely made my mind up on that. I think it's the first time you've asked me a question where I haven't entirely made my mind up.
That is. We should have a second referendum on it. Stephen Kinnock, lovely to speak to you, sir, Labour MP.